You've lived a great life and done well for yourself. But what mark will you leave on the world? How will you inspire future generations? Stan Miller and Katie Beth Hand have helped thousands of people answer exactly those questions. If you've ever wondered, what will be my legacy? You're in the right place. Welcome to the Your Life, Your Legacy podcast. Now, here are your hosts, Stan and Katie Beth.
Welcome back to the Your Life, Your Legacy podcast with your hosts, Stan Miller and Katie Beth Hand. Our guest today is a retired Green Beret, a success coach, a financial advisor, and a philanthropy advisor. You may know him best as the Millionaire Philanthropist Guy, and he is the co-founder of the Six Figure Lifestyle Coach. Please welcome William Tate. William, thank you so much for jumping on with us today.
Oh, such a pleasure and an honor. I'm such a big fan of both you and Stan and your work that you do and the 1,000 points of light that you create and illuminate all the worthy things that makes us ready to get up in the morning and get going in the day.
Well, we are really excited to have you with us. And so there are so many great conversations that we can have, but one that I want to talk about today is your passion for travel. So I know that you have a really, of all of the guests that we've had, you may have one of the most unique backgrounds. So tell us a little bit about your background. I know you've been to over 90 countries. You've had a very unique career and kind of career path. So tell me through all of that. What through there sparked that love of travel, and how has travel really impacted your life?
Thank you, Katie Beth. You know, growing up in Tupelo, Mississippi, and you can relate to this, growing up, across the river there in Arkansas, in rural Arkansas, some of us look in and then the others look out. And I was one of those that just was always looking out. And I thought, what can I do to live a life of service and adventure? So by the time I got to 17, I decided, okay, I'm going to be all I can be, join the Army. My parents let me sign to get in. And so that started me on my path. I was commissioned at the old program at Ole Miss at age 20 as a lieutenant and recruited into the Special Forces Green Berets because I'd already been to jump school. So the mission of the Army Green Berets, for most folks that don't know, is to train and advise. Now, we've got about 5 missions, but the one you see on Hollywood is, sort of like the ooh-ah stuff, Rangers, SEALs, those kind of folks. But we're the trainers and advisors. We're like the Peace Corps, but we go and carry weapons. So I thought, well, if Sam will teach me language, cultural, communication, meal skills, then I want to go and be all I can be on Sam's dime. So as a result, I got to help people in Africa, Central America, Europe, Middle East, a couple of Gulf War tours, and retired out after 18 years, took the early out. But the bug was there. I had been bitten by the global travel, the experience, the be all I can be, and leave the place better than I found it, bug. And so that's what I wanted to do for me. And I thought, well, if I ever get a family, I got to show them the way too. So that was my sort of early inkling into global travel and this sort of once literally, and you know this, when you see something and you're there, your mind can't unsee it. And eventually it travels down here to your heart. You're like, okay, what else can I do? How can I make this life of travel and adventure and service into my next career? So that's what I started on.
That is really cool. And I love that the career path that it kind of took you and how it sparked that passion for travel. I love to travel. I've been a lifelong traveler and want to travel more. So this conversation that we're having, it applies so much to me in particular because we've traveled some with our kids, but not a lot. We've got anywhere from ages 16 to 6. And so in our last conversation, you really inspired me to think about travel differently, not waiting till our kids get older, but to travel now. You've done a lot of travel with your own family, even with young kids. So tell us about that.
All right, real quick. When I left Silicon Valley, I'd been a philanthropy advisor in Silicon Valley all this time. I was a mortgage manager at Morgan Stanley, trainer, advisor. But I was known as the philanthropy guy in the office because that's all I wanted to do. I wanted to work with heart-centered, mission-driven, millionaire clients that had causes. And the cool thing was, after working with these folks, I had earned enough money at age 43 where I could just retire and go do my own thing. So Ukraine had always been on my radar, but then it just so happened they had finished their Orange Revolution in November of '04. So on CNN, back when that was a thing, 20, 25 years ago, I saw these orange banners, Yushchenko, Yushchenko, they were in the streets. And I thought, that's on my radar now. So I decided to go there take 2 months and traveled to Ukraine the summer of '05, and it changed my life. And I thought, well, this is where I need to be. I'm going to sell my practice to my partners. I'm going to retire, and I'm going to move to Ukraine and help orphans. And so then I thought, well, those kids, they need a lot of support. But if and when I have my own kids one day, then this is what I want to do. I want to introduce them to a better life. So learn life skills, English, and how to do stuff when you come out. So you got a place to go. So fast forward to your question. We winter in Durham, North Carolina, and we summer in our Ukraine home when it's safe. These last 3 years have been really rough on us and the family and my wife especially. But a funny story is, since I'm retired Army, we went to the local National Guard to update our military IDs. And so when we went there, I got my new ID and my wife got hers. And I said, well, our son's in the car and he's 2 now. Can he get an ID? He says, no, come back when he's, I think, 10. And they said, well, we can put him on the list. He says, yeah, well, do you have some identification? He says, yeah, well, he's got a passport. Passport? I was 25 before I got my first passport. And your 2-year-old's got a passport? He says, yeah, he's even got stamps in it. We summer in Ukraine and winter in Durham and travel in between. So he's been to Germany, he's been to France, he's been to Turkey, he's been a bunch of places. And the guy was going, what? No way. He says, yeah. Here's the cool part. He speaks 3 languages. He's been to 3 continents, all before he was age 5. And so that's the sort of the benefit of not having sort of this static life that we kind of all grow up with. You kind of do the next thing and next thing and next thing, and sooner or later you retire and die. I didn't want that for me, and I didn't want that for my family. So the benefits of introducing this spirit of family-friendly travel, I thought, well, I got to eat my own dog food. I got to preach my own, go to, sit in the front row of my own travel church. So that's what I've been doing. And it's worked out great. Now, we haven't been to Ukraine, because we can't take a child there, but we're going to go this summer and we're going to be next door in Poland. So he's going to get the same adventures, learn a new culture, learn Polish, a new language, in addition to his Ukrainian, Russian, and English. So he's 8. He's going to have a great life. He's going to live large and in charge. And when he comes back from the summer, he says, what, you folks didn't go to Europe for the summer? What's up? So I want those conversations to be normal, to be ubiquitous with your tribe and everyone that you meet, because when you do, and Stan's got great stories too about traveling with his sons, you capture that lightning in a bottle. I mean, life is about moments. And when you can capture those moments, literally, it's from traveling. You can do a bunch of stuff. You can go to the club or whatever. But when your mind and eyes see something different and you do it with your child, your family, then that's a moment they never can take away from you. So that's why I'm such a personal and professional advocate for family-friendly travel.
Yes, and you can see that passion. You can hear it when you're speaking, and I love that. Like I said, you inspired us. My husband and I are planning more travel with our kids. Our youngest kids have never even left the country, and so we are planning some big trips for them. But one thing, and you touched on this a couple of times already, but one thing I love about when you speak about this topic is it's not just about travel for the sake of travel. It's about philanthropy. It is about interacting. It's about a mission. So tell us a little bit about travel and philanthropy. How do those go hand in hand? How can they make families, more connected?
Katie Beth, bless you. You have hit the hottest button I've got. All right. So the fastest way I know of to bond a family, and this goes from experience, I've seen more families bond over transatlantic cruises, having a meal together, having a show together, doing fun things at the pool, just because they're all there together. If you get off the ship in the middle of the Atlantic, there's a problem. So literally everybody's there. You've got the seniors, you've got the next generation, and you've even got the teens and toddlers. So you got the 3rd and the 4th generation. And on big, beautiful cruise ship, there's a place for everybody. It's a family-friendly environment. I want to talk about facilitated family-friendly travel in a minute. But right now, the whole idea is you get the family there and you can have this meal. So you have this bonding experience. And as you're going and you're literally out in the big blue, beautiful ocean, looking at the big blue, beautiful sky, remembering that you're going to be gone someday. And hopefully your family behind you is there. But what can you bond over? Well, you bond over stories and causes. Stories and causes. So how did we get here? I mean, we all know the story in their space. It's the first generation, the second generation enjoys it, and the third generation is gone 90% of the time worldwide. So what philanthropy does is it bonds everyone to a common cause. Now, maybe mom and dad's cause was this, and the kids or their grandkids' cause was this. But if you create this philanthropy container, this philanthropy item when everybody can touch and feel, and they get literally to fund the causes that are important to them, then it bonds everybody in a new, meaningful way. And you get rid of some of the pettiness. And especially when you go to parts of the world, you can go to the tourist spots, you can go to the spots where there's orphans or there's, folks, struggling to get by. And you're thinking, what else can I do to help that family, that individual, that situation? I've got a little money. Let me see if I can multiply that by trying to help them and be that 1,000 points of light, be that pebble in the pond that creates something better for them. And so the kids don't grow up privileged. The kids grow up recognizing I have privilege by the grace of God and my family, but others do not. And what can I do to have balance? So if you're ever having a bad day, you spend a little time in an orphanage and see those kids and see what they don't have and what they're so grateful for. Turns your whole world around.
Well, and what I love about that is it really, when you are creating that sense of philanthropy and having these conversations with those older generation and the middle and the younger generation family members, it really serves a second purpose of creating that sense of giving and serving as part of your family identity. This is who we are. We're a family who serve. We are a family who put others first. We are a family who help people outside of our own borders. We are a family who, and it doesn't always have to be, this is particularly on international travel, but it can be serving as a family. We serve at a food bank here, 30 minutes from our house because we're out serving other people and we're serving together. That becoming a part of that family identity is huge. And I love the idea of putting everybody together on a cruise ship. We laughed about this before because on a cruise ship, nobody can get away. They can't go do some random excursion. They can't decide to stick in an extra day in Disney World or hit a different town while they're closed. When you're on a cruise ship, you're all there together. And so it really encourages families to spend that productive time at sea together, connecting and building these relationships and creating that identity. So I love that. I've taken all the good questions. Yeah. Stan, I will let you have a very brief turn if you would like to.
Yeah, you've not taken all the good questions. So when you were commenting, William, a minute ago, I was thinking about, there's a really famous quote by this very famous travel book writer named Ricky Steves, who I'm sure you're familiar with. He coined the phrase, he says, travel is life intensified. And I've certainly found that to be the case. But I think there's something magical when you're out of your ordinary space in a whole different part of the world where the smells are different, the tastes are different, the language that you hear spoken is different. Every sensory moment is something that brings you into a present consciousness. And if you're there with your kids, you're sharing that moment and you're discovering that together. And sometimes they're able to help you discover things that you might have missed, right? They observe things, they see things that you would not have seen because they're looking at the world through their eyes, right? So I know you're an advocate. I want to hear a little bit more about this planned, structured process that you've developed.
Oh, Stan, thank you so much. So just a couple of stories. When you travel on a cruise ship, you've got an international crew. There's probably 30 languages and 30 cultures on that ship. So one of the things I like to do with our own 8-year-old son, Andrew, is find out where, he or she is from, if you're having a meal or if you're having something casual, and say, how do you say hello, goodbye, please, and thank you in their language? And so by the time at the end of the day, he's learned a couple of three ways to do that because, the 8-year-old, the children's mind just are like little sponges, they're like little Alexas. They just learn everything. And so he's got a new appreciation for culture, for language, for, maybe they're sharing something else about their world that he's learning from a young age. And couldn't we all use that? I mean, you mentioned the great quote from Ricky. I love Mark Twain's quotes. He's got a travel quote about travel. I'm boogering it up, but it's fatal to all these ailments, bigotry and closed mind or something like that. And then the other quote that I love is 20 years from now, you'll suffer more regrets by the things you don't do than the ones you do. So, sail away from the harbor, cast off the lines, and go and do it. And so my idea is that if a coach facilitator, like real quick, I'll say that there's flat folks, there's the financial, legal, accounting, tax, which, we're in that space, we know very well, flat. Not derogatory, it's just an acronym, financial, legal, accounting, tax. Where there's the fact folks, there's the facilitator, advisor, advocate, coach, and trainer. And so I'm comfortable in both worlds. And so when you have a facilitated family-friendly cruise or retreat or resort or whatever you want to go to, and you've got a competent, caring facilitator and a coach and trainer, what happens is the meetings go better because you've got somebody that doesn't have a dog in the fight. And maybe the families have dynamics, or maybe they're situated. They haven't been in a meeting just like you, or some of that hadn't come out, and it impacts the meeting or it impacts how things go. But the facilitator can help with all that. And the cool thing about it is if you take your own family vacation, let's say it's $10,000. But when you hire one of our team coaches to do that, our facilitators, let's say it's 20. But now the whole thing's expensible to either your business, your real estate, and very often it could be your family foundation. It's in the 990 somewhere. So you can expense these things because what you're doing is you're in the business of family wealth transfer or family wealth business management, be it real estate or the business or whatever the situation is. And so literally the profit motivation is the business works better or the real estate management works better, whatever it is, because now everybody's on the same page. And that wouldn't have happened. A lot of folks are just like, we'll take a family vacation, but it becomes a vacation because there's nobody there to sort of lead it and referee it. Was a facilitated family-friendly event or cruise, then you've got somebody in charge that can expense it. And so it's a win-win for everybody involved. And that's the thing I like about what we're doing.
And so you're doing this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. I'm moving into this. I don't have anything on the schedule yet, but we're moving there.
So what would it look like if you had it on the scale? If a family wanted to bring the kids and the grandkids, what would that be, like a transatlantic crossing?
Well, I've got three in mind. If you haven't traveled before by cruise, okay, let's do a simple 7-day Caribbean or Mediterranean, something in the area where everybody can get on. The challenge with that is there's not many sea days. And the sea days is sort of where the magic happens because that's where we have kind of working lunch. We'll start around 10, we'll end around 2. We're in a meeting there and we'll have just kind of a buffet lunch. We'll go to the whiteboard and we get some stuff done. Well, by the time you unpack and enjoying it, you're back at shore again, right? So the idea is we want to take a transatlantic, 14, 20 days, something like that, get it a little time to unpack your mind. And then you got 4 or 5 or 6 or 7, 8 sea days where you can have this meeting and you can have it again. And so it's not like a high intensity Tony Robbins type thing. It's a leisurely business working lunch where you actually do something. And then afternoon and evening, you have the meal together and it's an, oh, by the way, questions. And you sort of talk about it during the show. And then the next morning you come back and you say, okay, you know what? We had some breakthroughs or we had some areas that we want to come back to. And by the time you get to the far end, you've got a plan. You've got a plan where you've got a better family foundation or whatever the tool is, or you've got a better family wealth transfer, or you've got a better business transition plan. And so be it transatlantic, or if you want to stay close to the shore, we'll do a 15-day Panama Canal, where it starts in the West Coast and goes to the East Coast. And sort of, if bucket list is Panama Canal on your list, check that block. And it's business related, so we're going to expense it. Or we're going to sail to Hawaii, all sea days, and then do a little Hawaii and then come back the other way. So it's really, those are my 3 favorite. So if you haven't cruised before with a family, take a sort of a practice cruise. We can facilitate that one too. And then if you like that, say, I'm hooked now, I'm bugged. Let's do a longer with more sea days, transatlantic. Let's do a Panama Canal, coast to coast, or let's go out to Hawaii, hang out there for a while and come back all on board. So there's a lot of ways to skin that cat. My vision is once you're going at some point, like my bucket list is take my family on a world cruise, 180 days or 120 days. It's 4 months at sea. So whether you do 2 weeks or 4 months, that's my bucket list. And I'll bet there's somebody else's bucket list like there that says, I want to take my family, but before it's too late, before my health, body, mind, spirit starts to fail, I want to take the whole family. Let's do the thing. I'll write a check for it. We'll facilitate it. We'll expense it. It'll be a lifetime bucket list thing, and we're all going to go. So anywhere from 2 weeks to 4 months around the world. I'm up for all of it.
You really make a good point too. My mother had never traveled, and after my dad was gone, my sister and my niece decided to take my mother on an Alaska cruise, but they waited too long.
Mm.
She was a little too far gone to really connect with it. I think she really, for the most part, really missed the experience because she just wasn't. I mean, they were probably a couple, 3 years really too late in doing it. So, you don't have forever, right? We don't know what we have. We have right now. We don't know where that goes, but we really do have to seize the moment and act and not kick the can down the road for sure.
Carpe diem. Get it on the calendar. That's a lick on us. We're going to start
Yeah.
calendaring some stuff, and then we're going to let you and our other tribes know to say, this is on the calendar. All you got to do is let us know. We'll pay for the whole thing. We'll package it. We'll expense it. You'll expense it. So instead of paying for your family vacation here, you're going to get a lot out of it, and the net is going to be less. Everybody wins.
It's not uncommon in estate plans for senior generation family members to create a separate trust fund solely to fund family travel. And that's something I probably have been remiss in not being a more proactive advocate of that, because if you're funding it, that takes away a lot of reasons to not join the trip, right?
It becomes
Right.
part of the legacy plan, literally. And here's what the cool thing about it, Stan, is my vision is once they do it once, whether it's a small cruise or a bigger cruise, they get it on their calendar for 6 months, a year, or they make it a family thing, and they start to bring their tribe. So literally it's a pebble in the pond. Once this flywheel starts going, a lot of folks want to join it. That's been my experience.
I was just about to say, William, how cool is it if that does become part of the family legacy and it can be through what you were talking about, Stan, that planning, but how neat would it be if you left a legacy of, even if it was every 2 years, your whole family got together and had this type of trip and bonded and talked about the vision and the mission and maybe resolved some of those family conflicts that otherwise kind of tend to lie and fester if we're not all together often. That the ability to really build something like that up and make it part of a family tradition could be really powerful. And what a cool thing to have these younger kids growing up looking forward to, that is part of who their family is and what they get to do. Really awesome.
Thank you. They get to tell their tribe. And when they come from the other side, they'll be like, you got to do this. Come with us. It's super cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So no, we don't have a lot of time left. And before we're completely out of time, I'm just curious. Tell me a place or two in the world that you found to be surprisingly interesting.
Oh, Stan, I'm the wrong guy to ask. I think it's all interesting. For example, so the favorite spots in Europe when they transatlantic is they sail right into Barcelona. I mean, you're probably 5-minute bus ride from the port to La Rambla, the main drag there with with all the action in the market. So we've been there, I don't know, a dozen times via cruise ship. The other part is we love Rome. We love sailing into Civitavecchia, taking the train into town, and then the train gets off and you're right there. We also love sailing into Amsterdam or Rotterdam. Literally, your 5-minute Uber ride to downtown from there, and then that starts your place. But along the way, the cool thing about the cruise ships would be You get to stop along the way cool places like Greenland, Iceland, some of the Funchal, and some of the other Portuguese islands and Spanish islands, Canaries,
Right.
that are along the way. It would be like a big deal to sort of get there and get. So you take a day trip, you get off, you poke around, and then you got something cool to talk about over dinner. And then the next day, we're right back in the meeting, and everybody's so excited. And you're like, we got to do this again.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yes, we'll facilitate you doing it again. We'll get it on your calendar, because money they got, life experiences and bonding and this legacy planning that you guys do great. This is where it comes and becomes real. Rubber meets the road when you do the facilitated family travel.
Okay, so that perfectly teed up my final question for you. And that is, for people listening, how do families get started planning a trip like this? Making sure that they get the right facilitator, making sure they plan a trip that isn't just fun, but a trip that really has impact. Where do they start?
I am so happy you asked. I just feel like that's a great softball over the plate. All right, Katie Beth, I have just so happens to have created the top 10 list for facility or benefits for family-friendly travel. So if you want to find it, we're flying the airplane while we're building it. I don't have a website yet, but I do have an outdated Facebook and a LinkedIn profile that I shall update, but you can find me there. It's William H. Tate on Facebook, William H. Tate on LinkedIn. And by the way, the H is for humanitarian.
I love it. I love that. No, that's great. And I really appreciate just the wisdom and experience you've kind of brought into this. Traveling and legacy is obviously something that Stan and I are both passionate about. So this is really in our wheelhouse, but we love the idea of making travel more than just about seeing something new or seeing something cool, using travel to really bond families and make a positive impact on the world. And so if you're listening and you're interested in this type of opportunity, this has been the Your Life, Your Legacy podcast with your hosts, Stan Miller and Katie Beth Hand. And our guest today was William Tate. And you can get connected with William. We will link his LinkedIn and his Facebook page to this. So feel free to send him a message to learn more. He has lots more wisdom he can share with you and lots of insight on this topic if you're interested in getting started. So please be sure you reach out to him. And William, thank you so much for being on the show and taking time out of your day to join us today. We really appreciate it.
Oh, such a pleasure. And God has blessed me with Stan and you, and God has brought us all together because we're certainly kindred spirits. And I really feel like Stan is my brother from another mother. And Katie Beth, you're probably my sister from another mister or whatever it is.
I think so. Well, thank you, William. This was fun. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you much.
Thanks for listening to the Your Life, Your Legacy podcast with Stan Miller and Katie Beth Hand. If you enjoyed the show, please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. To find out more about Stan and Katie Beth, go to pinnaclelegacylaw.com. You can also find links in the show notes.
49 faces looked to him in triumph. Over the last 12 months, they had each taken turns and promoted his business for a week at a time, driving over $987,342 in revenue. What if you had a network of 50 centers of influence who promoted your business every week for a year? Grab your copy of the #1 Amazon best-selling book, The Ultimate Guide to Growing Your Business with a Podcast, at 33% off the Amazon price by going to ultimatepodcastbook.com. Again, that website for 33% off the Amazon price is ultimatepodcastbook.com.